You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the corruption detector, and this is your Red Pill News. Well, guys, it has been quite the weekend, hasn't it? Yesterday we learned that Jeffrey was found dead in his cell in the Manhattan Correctional Facility where he was being watched, apparently, supposedly, on suicide watch due to the attack that happened previously. Now, if you'll remember back in 3496, this death was labeled as a suicide by the mainstream media, but we were asked by our favorite Anon, does a person who fights hard for bail, then appeals the original decision, attempt to overturn, attempt suicide prior to the ruling of the appeal? Logical thinking. Now, this is in reference to the last time that he was attacked, and it was also billed as a suicide attempt. Of course, they never actually clarified, was it suicide, was it an attack, did someone try to kill him? Well, apparently Jeffrey had told other people that he was attacked by someone and that it was a murder attempt. But now they're saying that he's gone, and therefore the case goes with him. But I do have some other information that we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be going over only information related to the death of Jeffrey. So I want you to sit back, relax. We're going to be right back after a brief word from my sponsor. Don't go away. Don't turn that dial. Life Change Tea is the tea that makes you go. It's all natural with organic ingredients, it's non-GMO, and it has no caffeine. Yes, I've tried it. I can say it is a refreshing cold tea, but it's really an herbal drink and it makes you want more. Super Strength Life Change Tea gets things moving. It aids in cleansing colon buildup, occasional digestive slowdowns, and occasional constipation. Feel like a new you and drop a few pounds. Just drink 2 8-ounce glasses a day and watch Life Change Tea do its job. You won't be sorry. Try it today. Where can you get it? At getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And they carry wonderful organic supplements as well. So go to getthetea.com, and if you want some mind over matter tips, go to Health Matters Now YouTube channel for some interesting insights. Now, first here we have a tweet from John Levine. It's from the New York Post. It shows exclusive photos of Jeffrey as he's wheeled into downtown hospital. So here in the first photo, we have definitely what looks like the body of a man on a gurney, and he's being wheeled in by FDNY paramedics. Right there, you can't see his face because they're doing life-saving procedures on him. But here in the second photo, we do see the face of what looks to be a Caucasian man in his mid to late 60s. White hair, he's got wrinkles, and we're going to do a zoom in on it right there. I'm going to show you guys a little close-up. Now, I just want you to notice, a couple things about his face. Remember what his face looks like. And next, we're going to take a look at a side-by-side comparison of this face with the face of Jeffrey Epstein. All right, here we can see that picture blown up, and below it is a picture of Jeffrey with that portion of the face placed over it, so we can get an idea of what that should look like. But you can see it doesn't quite line up. Here it is with a bit more blending. Here it is again. And here from Tootsie, she put together what is a GIF of the two faces being blended together. And you can see to an even greater degree that they don't quite match. Now, if you'll take a look at the ears of the dead man, there's some interesting features there. And then you can see that the ear of Jeffrey pops up, and it is a completely different set of features inside that ear. You can see here the many folds in the ear and the earlobe, which clearly looks to be much more dangly. This earlobe on Jeffrey is completely different as well. Also, the nose. The nose is completely different. Let's take a look at a side-by-side comparison of the noses. All right. And here we have the side-by-side comparison of the noses. You can see the man on the left has a much more bulbous nose, rounded. Jeffrey's nose is far more sharp and angular. And we can see here with a line drawn on it, clearly they are different shapes. Now, let's take a look at the ears one more time. The man on the left, his ear comes down and back up, and then a tight little corner right there. Here on Jeffrey, Absolutely nothing of the sort. Also, we have this feature right here coming down. Jeffrey is suspiciously missing that feature right there. There also is a greater degree of fold to the outer part of the ear than we have here on Jeffrey's ear. And beyond that, it also looks like this man has larger eyes. Jeffrey's eyes are much smaller, also a greater slant right there than what this man has right here. Also, I am not seeing this mole on this man's face right there. Now, I realize that this could be from the other side, but for the sake of the argument, we'll just say that I don't see that mole. So basically, guys, when it comes down to it, I do not believe that this is the body of Jeffrey Epstein. I believe that this is a body of another man, and when we accept that this could potentially not be Jeffrey Epstein, we must ask the question, whose body is this, and where is Jeffrey? Does this mean that Jeffrey has been moved to another location? Was his death faked so that they could get him into protective custody? Was it meant to trick the deep state into thinking that they had won yet another round? Either way you look at it, Jeffrey Epstein, in my mind, is not dead. Now, this is an anonymous post from 4chan. I am not telling anyone that this particular post has any legitimacy. I just think that it backs up my own personal idea that Jeffrey Epstein could be alive still. Now, a lot of people tend to share anonymous posts and they say that they're real. I will never say that. This is merely speculation. This is a hypothetical world that we are living in trying to determine what happened. But this post, which was posted early yesterday, at looks like 7:44 a.m. It says, not saying anything after this, please. Do not try to dox me, but last night after 4:15 count, they took him to medical in a wheelchair, front cuffed, but not one triage nurse says they spoke to him. Next thing we know, a trip van shows up. We do not do releases on the weekends unless a judge orders it. Next thing we know, he's put in a single-man cell and hangs himself. Here's the thing. The trip van did not sign in, and we did not record the plate number, and a guy in green dress military outfit was in the back of the van according to the tower guy who let him through the gate. You guys, I am shaking right now, but I think they switched him out. So this apparently is from someone working at the Manhattan Correctional Facility, if it is to be believed. Now, again, I don't know if this is real. I don't know if this is what happened. However, I think that it's very, very possible. Now, we're going to take a look at some tweets reporting about the events that led to him being found in his cell next. Now, Breaking News Live reported that 2 guards at the MCC who normally have overnight shifts that would be watching over the suicide risk inmates were both told to leave the area 3 hours earlier for scheduled maintenance to jail cells and hallways. And then, of course, yesterday morning, then Jeffrey was found dead in his cell, or a body was found in his cell. Now, it's also come out that he would be the very first suicide to have ever been committed at MCC in New York. All right? I don't know how many years that place has been open and operating, but this would be the first in its history. To add to this, there was an alleged camera malfunction last night at the MCC where he was locked up. So we have guards called off to leave for scheduled maintenance. And in the wake of that, the cameras also malfunction. And then all of a sudden, the most high-profile inmate in the history of the United States is found dead in his cell. I think this one stinks to high heaven. Now, the question remains, is this a setup by the deep state, or is this a setup by the white hats? However you look at it, it is so plainly obvious that something was orchestrated here. Now, we have a statement here directly from Attorney General William Barr on the death of Jeffrey. He said, I was appalled to learn that Jeffrey Epstein was found dead early this morning from an apparent suicide while in federal custody. Mr. Epstein's death raises serious questions that must be answered. In addition to the FBI's investigation, I have consulted with the Inspector General, who is opening an investigation into the circumstances of Mr. Epstein's death. So, if this was a setup by the cabal, then that means they were able to pay off all of these people to look the other way, to shut the cameras down, to get this van in, to get Jeffrey pulled out, and to leave a dead man in his cell. If that is the case, then that means that we have one of the biggest catastrophic failures on behalf of the DOJ, the federal prison system, and the FBI, and they are all going to be scrambling to determine exactly what went wrong and how. Now I ask you, do you really think, knowing how high profile this man was, that the DOJ and that the people working in this prison that would be responsible for his safekeeping would have allowed something like this to happen? Or do you think that it's possible that he could have been removed for his own safety so that the deep state would think he was dead and that their problems were in the past? Well, I think that it's also a very real possibility that an intelligence agency, someplace that he was affiliated with, perhaps the Clowns, perhaps Mossad, could have orchestrated this whole thing as well. Either way you look at it, I am going to bet on my life that Jeffrey is not dead. He was taken out of that prison by someone or some group, and we don't know who it is yet. But hopefully, in the future, we are going to find out and get some answers. Now, here is one good piece of information coming out of all this. This is a tweet from Adam Klosfeld, and he says, second reaction, a former federal prosecutor informs me about this second-order effect in terms of legal procedure. An important note after Epstein's death. No one else will have standing to challenge the search warrant on his house. Everything will be admissible against any other defendant without possibility of a motion to suppress. Now, this would specifically be referring to anything found at his compound in Palm Beach, his compound in New York, his compound in New Mexico, his compound on that island. He was the sole owner of all of these properties. So anything that was found there, I would imagine the DOJ is going to be poring over with a fine-tooth comb and is going to use to bring charges against other people. If he had co-conspirators that were charged with him at the same time, this death could have caused that entire case to fall apart, but he was the sole defendant. That means that other charges only haven't been brought yet. So, I think that there's a lot of good that can still come out of this, regardless of if he's dead or not, and regardless of where he is at this time. Now, also from Adam Klosfeld here, we do have mixed reports. Some places and outlets saying that he was still on suicide watch, others saying that he had been removed. But he notes here that regarding the Bureau of Prison Guidelines, it would require written justification for him to be taken off suicide watch. So watch termination and post-watch report. Based upon clinical findings, the program coordinator or designee will remove the inmate from suicide watch when the inmate is no longer at imminent risk from suicide, or arrange for the inmate's transfer to a medical referral center or contact health care facility. Now, once an inmate has been placed on watch, the watch may not be terminated under any circumstance without the program coordinator or designee performing a face-to-face evaluation. Only the program coordinator will have the authority to remove an inmate from suicide watch, and generally the post-watch report should be completed in PDS prior to terminating that watch, or as soon as possible following watch termination, to ensure appropriate continuity of care. Copies of the report will be forwarded to the central file, medical record, psychology file, and the warden. There should be a clear description of the resolution of the crisis and guidelines for follow-up care. I cannot imagine that they would take him off of suicide watch given the nature of what happened previously and given the nature of the threats against his life. The DOJ and the Bureau of Prisons must have been aware of the severity of the threats against him and the names of those people involved in his crimes. It is so ridiculously coincidental that on Friday we get the release of the documents, the unsealed documents, and then Saturday morning he shows up dead. This clearly did not happen in the way that it is being presented. And I cannot wait to hear what the findings of the FBI and the DOJ and the Inspector General are, because this is one of the greatest mysteries ever on the face of the earth. Now next, after the death was made public, Clinton body count started trending again for the second time in a month on Twitter. Now, Twitter quickly got their act together and tried to erase it from the internet, and they replaced it with something that's called Trump body count, as if President Trump has a series of dead bodies surrounding him throughout his career. No, that's absolutely not him. That would be the Clintons. But after after the announcement was made, President Trump retweeted this tweet from Terrence K. Williams. He says, "Died of suicide on 24/7 suicide watch? Yeah, right. How does that happen? Jeffrey Epstein had information on Bill Clinton, and now he's dead. I see Trump body count trending, but we know who did this. RT if you're not surprised. Let's go ahead and take a listen to this message from Terrence Williams, because this man knows what he's talking about.
Shaking my head. I'm not surprised. I told y'all last month this was gonna happen, but didn't nobody want to listen to me. But then guess what? Next month he dead, and you know what? All the liberals were calling me a conspiracy theorist, saying, Terrence, you coming up with crazy conspiracies and you need to be banned from Twitter. And then guess what? The man really ended up dead. And you know what? He had information on the Clintons, and the man ended up dead. Now, for some odd reason, people that have information on the Clintons end up dead. And they usually die from suicide. Come on now. Now, how do everybody die from suicide? They got information on you. Okay? You know what, to be honest with you, I don't want to know nothing about the Clintons. Don't tell me nothing. I'm not trying to end up there. I don't even want to know if Hillary was digging in her nose. I don't want to know if Bill Clinton eat boogers. Don't tell me nothing. I don't want to end up there. I don't want to hear it. Nope. I can't hear you. I don't want to hear it. I'm not finna end up dead like everybody else. You know what? Now, I'm not going to say who killed that man because you know I could end up being, but the word around the street is the Clintons did it. I don't know though. Hey. I'm just another black man on Twitter. I don't know nothing. I guess I don't know nothing. But so somebody tell me what's going on, because clearly, now how you end up dead and you are a high profile case in prison? Come on now. And you on suicide watch and you die of suicide in prison? Yeah, okay, somebody not doing their job, or somebody got paid not to do their job, so somebody can get knocked off so information don't come out. But I don't know nothing. I'm just another black man on Twitter.
Incredible that President Trump would tweet this. Even President Trump knows exactly what's going on. It lends credence to the idea that this was not something that was done by the White Hats, that this was in fact an operation perhaps involving the Clintons, because we know that the Clintons have probably the most to lose than anybody in this. Scandal follows them. They are constantly plagued by things like this happening. Vince Foster, the names go on and on. Look into it if you have not heard of the Clinton body count. Now, I believe that everybody watching this show right now has heard of the Clinton body count, so that might be a fruitless exercise, but you know, it doesn't hurt. President Trump also retweeted this tweet from Breaking News Live, showing documents were unsealed yesterday revealing that top Democrats, including Bill Clinton, took private trips to Jeffrey Epstein's island. President Trump is telling the world, you guys, if you don't think something's happening, something big is going to happen, that the Clintons are going to go down, I don't know what to tell you. Because when the President of the United States is tweeting about something like this, people have to listen. This is part of the Great Awakening. This is part of President Trump doing what he needs to do to make Americans wake up. If they do not know about this before, if they did not know about this before, you can bet they all know about it now. All right, next we have a tweet thread from John Doe on Twitter, going over some of the bizarre things that led to Jeffrey Epstein being able to be found dead in his cell. Now, from the New York Times, it says that Epstein was left alone and he was not closely monitored before the jail suicide. He was supposed to have been checked by guards every 30 minutes, but that procedure was not being followed the night before he was found. And I think that ties in with the fact that the guards were told to vacate 3 hours prior. Now, in addition, the jail had transferred his cellmate and allowed Mr. Epstein to be housed alone in a cell just 2 weeks after he had been taken off suicide watch, a decision that also violated the jail's normal procedure, two officials said. Again, very strange. Now, the MCC is trying to spin this as a staffing issue. The two guards on duty in the special housing unit where Mr. Epstein was housed were both working overtime, according to the prison official. One of the corrections officers was working his 5th straight day of overtime. And finally, the New York City medical examiner is saying that the autopsy results for Jeffrey will be expected this afternoon. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this. I'm probably going to need to be reporting on that portion of it tomorrow. Now, Rudy Giuliani is also chiming in, and he asks, what does the word watch mean in the phrase suicide watch? Who was watching? What does camera show? It is inconceivable Epstein could have hung himself if there was a suicide watch. Follow the motives. So again, this is lending credence to the idea that this was not a white hat operation. So we know that there were no cameras. We know that no one was watching. We know that he wasn't even on suicide watch. What are we going to do, guys? Even if Jeffrey Epstein is missing and presumed dead, if he actually committed suicide, we still have tons and tons of evidence. All it means is that Jeffrey Epstein himself will not be directly facing justice, and he will not be able to testify against these people. However, we know that his house, his compounds, they were all rigged with cameras from the floor to the ceiling. Anything that went on in any of those homes is going to be recorded, and all of that evidence is now in the hands of federal authorities. Finally, guys, we are going to be ending with this, a story from the DC Patriot. My good friend Matt Couch put this together. A leaked email from Share Blue has been released, and it is encouraging members to capitalize on the Epstein quote-unquote suicide and use it to attack Trump. Now, we've already seen that taking place with the replacement of Clinton body count with Trump body count. But Matt says this is absolutely disgusting, America. What you are about to read below is an email sent out by a funding arm of the Democratic Party known as Share Blue. Inside this email, you will see that they are coaching their members to use the Epstein apparent, quote, suicide as a political stunt to attack Trump. They say, number one, the very first bulletin in the leaked email is to remind people of allegations against President Trump. Yet nothing, of course, is said about Bill Clinton, who rode on Epstein's Lolita Express 27 times to the island. This is absolutely sickening, and that's why we felt we needed to show you this. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. It's addressed to stalwarts. By now, most of you will have seen the recent news regarding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. Already, the news is being used by far-right activists to spread smears and conspiracy theories on social. Despite being both harmful and untrue, this is clearly a very concerted effort from the right to reach the public consciousness. As you can see on your dash, the past few hours have seen a rapid swell in far-right disinformation. As such, we need as many stalwarts as we can to counteract this, promote our own messaging, and discredit the claims being made. Now ask yourself, why would they need to discredit these claims? The claims are being made because there's evidence to substantiate it. And they say you can find the keynotes regarding Jeffrey Epstein at this address right there, and navigating to the appropriate conversation. As this is a breaking story, the keynotes are currently bare bones, and any stalwarts who would like to help in adding to them will be greatly appreciated. It is of the utmost importance that we act fast and face these smears head-on with the correct messaging. Currently, that is, do not deny the possibility of foul play. Do not excuse Epstein of his potential crimes or doubt the validity of his guilt, and do not link to the current court documents regarding Epstein or use them in constructing your argument. Do sympathize with the potential victims of Epstein. Do remind people of the prior allegations against President Trump. Do remind people of Trump's prior quotes regarding Epstein and their proven interactions together. Do remind people of the power that the President of the United States holds in comparison to members of the public. And do, as always, roll con. I'm sure that that's an acronym. Once again, we need as many stalwarts active as possible. We also need stalwarts' help in updating the latest keynotes in regards to this developing situation. Best, Avi. What are your thoughts on the Share Blue using the alleged suicide of Jeffrey Epstein as a political move to attack President Trump? Well, my thoughts on it are that I am not surprised. David Brock right here, this is his playbook. He wrote the Democrats' handbook, and we know the types of things that David Brock has been alleged to have involvement with in the past. I am not surprised. I'm not surprised to see Twitter helping him, and I'm not surprised to see the mainstream media crying foul play over all of this. Now, the thing that really we need to focus on here is that it's obvious to everyone in the public, whether you're on the left or you're on the right, something smells in Denmark. This is rotten here. This story is not the way that it has been portrayed. I'll be very interested to get my hands on those coroner reports and the notes regarding the autopsy so that we can see what's going on. They'll also have, of course, the measurements of Epstein's body, his proportions and all of that. So we'll need to compare that against the publicly available information to see exactly how close it lines up or how far it deviates. All right, folks, what are your thoughts? Do you think that Jeffrey Epstein was funneled out by an intelligence agency for a foreign nation? Do you think that the White Hats got him out of that prison to keep him under protective custody? Do you think the Clintons had something to do with it? I want to know what you have to say in the comments below. Don't forget, if you want to get a hold of me or you want to help support the program, you can do that by supporting my sponsors, or you can do that with the donation links in the description, or you can also visit the store that we have set up for Red Pill 78 merchandise. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the corruption detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.